Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Crossover. Starring Josh Johnson and Chris McGill. Featuring Christina Thorson. And of course, you, the Instagram live chat. Now, sit back and enjoy this week's edition of The Crossover. Powered by Card Ladder.
Man, that was quick. Christina, how'd you let this happen?
I definitely was the first in the room because it was.
Yeah. You were
said one.
No doubt. You know, it says like when people join, and usually maybe it's 3 or 4. It was just Cardboard Chronicles.
Told you I was.
By itself.
Told you I was sitting around waiting.
Yeah. So, I'd like a few. Well, whatever. We'll just say it now. This show tonight is going to be an hour and an hour only. So we're going to move quickly through a lot of questions.
Let's go.
And also, it'll be fun to see what this new time is like. So welcome, everybody, to The Crossover. Today is December 23rd, 2022. Second to last crossover of the year. Are we doing one on the 30th?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So second to last crossover of the year, most likely. And I do have a mail day. Do you have a mail day?
It's just a PSA return of a card I already had. But I'll show it quick because yours is probably new. PSA 8, 2012 gold.
Nice.
Paul.
Let's go. Congrats.
All right, it's yours.
All right, mine's kind of similar to yours in that, you know, it's a dupe, but I picked up a raw 2021 Jokic Optic Gold.
Boom.
I mean, when those come up, I just like a kid in a candy store. Let's go with that metaphor. All right. Jordan Hudson says it's way too early for Josh to give hot takes. I don't think so, my friend. I don't even think that's remotely true. And we've got a smattering of spicy topics tonight. So once again, tonight's show is only an hour long, and we're going to try and move through these questions very quickly. So first question up is Flippin' Hoops, who says, softball question, what's been your favorite sports card trees so far this year? And side note, you shouldn't be posting your trees yet, right? Didn't we conclude that? Okay.
So the answer is none because I haven't looked at any. I refuse to see them until Christmas Day.
We recognize no trees.
Nope.
We recognize no premature trees. But actually, I am going to recognize a tree.
Oh,
This was an incredible tree.
Yeah.
Posted by Lair911. Jordan Game Jersey Auto up top. LeBron Exquisite RPA. Curry Exquisite RPA. Luka Exquisite RPA. And Flawless Green RPA. Kobe Logo Man autographs. LeBron Logo Man autographs. More Kobe Logo Man autographs. Dwayne Wade, Pippen. We'll forgive the Pippen. Durant, Dirk, Curry. I mean, it's just a Logo Man autograph. Dreamscape. And then chronology as well. So
how many likes did that post get?
that was a decent tree. 898.
I wonder what got more, that or his picture of his monkey ape picture.
Dude, should I look? I don't know.
It's probably a blowout.
It's his profile picture, but I'm not sure if it ever got posted.
Well, I don't think you can. Oh, go ahead.
It's not. It is not polluting his beautiful stream of sports cards. Thankfully. All right. Bruin Killer says, don't forget that Festivus starts with the airing of grievances. So let's hear them. Look, Josh, are you familiar with Festivus?
I'm not.
Oh. Christina, do you know about Festivus? Christina definitely would not because it's a Seinfeld reference and she hates all things Seinfeld.
Yeah, I hate all things Seinfeld.
Festivus,
Fucking stupid.
in long story short, is a holiday where a pole comes, instead of a Christmas tree, there's a pole, and family members take turns airing their grievances with each other.
Oh, with each other. Okay, all right. Now I'm ready.
So look, I mean, there'll be plenty of airing of grievances throughout the course of the show. That's why I wanted to put that question up front, because I think we're gonna have a lot of hobby grievances
It says
throughout.
with each other. Doesn't that mean the three of us have grievances with each other?
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I interpreted that question more as just airing of grievances in general.
In the hobby?
Festivus is the perfect hobby.
Why, Josh? Do you have something you want to grieve against?
Look, the show's only an hour long, so I don't think we can do Festivus.
Please, Josh, go first.
We
What
need,
would
like-
you like to say?
It wasn't about you. It's just that Chris needs to wear socks.
I always am wearing socks. When was the last time I didn't wear socks?
It's been a while.
Okay. Kobe 81-23-1996-13 says, don't know if this will be the last crossover of the year or not. I would love to hear some New Year's resolutions. It's a little early for New Year's resolutions. Do you do resolutions?
I used to, but the cards that were after are just so rare that it's hard to like pick. I still need the 09 Topps Chrome Gold LeBron, and then my other resolution is to pick up like 3 or 4 exquisite LeBrons.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't do New Year's resolutions, to be honest with you, because why wait for the new year to do it? All right. Cards and Candy 911 says, what is your biggest regret of 2022?
Oh man, watching Game 7 of the Suns Mavs with my eyeballs.
Eyeballs impaled. What's yours, Christina?
Not telling more people to fuck right off.
Christina's regret is not being more direct and telling people to fuck right up. I didn't even know there was a quantity increase available
Oh, believe
in
me,
that
there
supply.
is. Oh, there is.
Biggest regret in 2022 for me, not knowing that this market was going to absolutely crash, if we're being honest, over the latter half of 2022, and buying some really important cards in the first part of 2022. I wish I would have had the foresight to wait, but I didn't, and took some major losses, at least on paper. All right. Drake's PC says, looking ahead to 2023, what are you most optimistic about in the hobby? And how about what are you most pessimistic about as well?
Is it that we're getting old that New Year's is just another day? It's like birthdays and New Year's. It just happens. The calendar happens to add a digit. We never really got in the spirit of these questions.
No.
What am I hoping is going to change?
No, what are you optimistic about next year? What are you pessimistic about next year?
I'm kind of optimistic that Fanatics will start doing some more stuff. Maybe some like Topps Chrome stuff. I know that the basketball, they can't do basketball yet, so I don't know. Maybe some more like word from them on what's coming or news. We haven't really heard much. Pessimistic that people will stop bitching about the market going down.
Yeah, okay. Good. I'm optimistic about the cleansing or purging of people who were never in this hobby for anything other than shameless self-enrichment. And not that I'm casting any aspersions about that in and of itself. You can be that way if you want to be that way. But we are also entitled to not like you if you act that way. So I'm looking forward to those people continuing to flush out as they have definitely flushed out in the latter half of 2022. And then what am I pessimistic about? I don't know if pessimist is the right word, but definitely nervous about the market. I wouldn't say I'm pessimistic about it, but I'm concerned about it because I think it's not just sports cards, but it's all markets that I've got eyes on that can be considered asset classes or asset adjacent. They are full of people who are waiting. They're waiting for further drops, and that mentality can actually accelerate drops and really create a nasty momentum. So that's what I'm pessimistic about. All right. Okay. Lacard James, with no surprise of the subject matter, is the LeBron RPA poll legit? Some are already questioning it. And Sasha P. Cards says, is the LeBron RPA that was pulled last night fake? The patch seems sus. And the pack was out of order. So, Josh, what are we dealing with here?
Well, the pack's not out of order. I spoke with Carvin before the show. He said that's not true. There's no set location for where that card goes. So that's wrong. So we can get that out of the way.
Okay, so there's actually not an issue with the ordering. Oh, no, look, I pretty much jumped right to it.
It's the third card. Well, someone else did a screen grab where he turns the box around, and in the reflection of the box, you can see the Kirilenko as the first card. So I also don't think he swapped the cards out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, that's good intel.
The two things that are sus are the patch and the guy who pulled it, because he's got a very shaky history. A lot of people have issues with him. I actually haven't talked to anyone who's like, I don't have any problems with him. It's always someone has an issue with him. So he also owns another shady copy of a LeBron RPA at 99. So I could go either way on this. I mean, all the evidence shows that it's real. So
Are you concerned at all about that the patch is phenomenal? Does that raise any?
It does. I mean, I've never seen one like that. I've never seen a Letterman patch in any of those. So it definitely raises concern because it's usually from the Cavs. I've never seen one from the name on the back because the lettering is smaller on the James on the back than the Cavaliers on the front. So the front is a lot patchier. I've just never seen a Letterman like that before.
And it is from the S from the James, not the S from Cavaliers.
Yeah, it's smaller.
Okay.
You can see it more of it. The S from the Cavaliers is quite a bit bigger, and it's a little bit more like sharp in its edges, and the James is more smooth, right? It's you can see the S.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of this would have been alleviated if the cards never left the camera's view.
Yeah, but I've seen the screenshot where you could see the Kirilenko in the reflection. But I hear what you're saying.
That's good. But that's the first I've heard of that. But that goes a long way. But nonetheless, when opening product on camera, just don't take it off camera.
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. But I mean, the Kirilenko reflection is big. That matters a lot. This is just where we're at. we've got characters in this hobby, and
I mean, frankly, if back hair breaks or that, I'm using that as an extreme case. But if someone I knew in the hobby that was a breaker, or if another LeBron collector or somebody pulled that, I'd be like, yeah, of course, it's great. It's just that this individual does have an iffy past.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with the sequencing. The sequencing is
it's not.
fine.
That's what Carvin told me. I can show the screenshot, but Carvin said it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, assuming that everything's above board, is that the first time a LeBron Exquisite RPA has ever been pulled on camera?
I don't know. I think so.
That's kind of cool.
Thanks, because I would love to just enjoy the hell out of that, because that's an incredible moment.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous to see that get pulled on camera. All right, the card collector girl says, "Are we done with quarterback prospecting and spending $100,000 on guys who have done nothing?" And I have a visual aid to support this.
Oh, you beat me.
So this guy really put on a sterling performance on Thursday night. This isn't even his his true shield, his true platinum shield 101. This is the Stars and Stripes one. Sold for as a PSA 10. Or no, I'm sorry, as a PSA authentic auto 10. Sold for $66,000 over the summer.
Is that his most expensive card ever?
Yeah. And it stands to reason that if it had been the true platinum 101, and maybe it had a decent numerical grade, I mean, that could have been a six-figure card. So, what do you think? Are we done? Has everyone in the hobby decided to just come to their senses and stop spending a lot of money on a very exciting young prospect?
You're expecting too much of people. Sorry, Angela. It will continue.
Well, the question was like, is there $100,000? We might see it like scale down, but you're still going to see relative to players, relative to Peyton Manning. I'll just say it because that's where this is headed.
What about you? Got to throw Drew Brees in there too now.
Drew Brees. I was watching the game last night, and it's the first time I've really sat down and watched Zach Wilson, and he reminds me of someone. I want to show you.
This guy repositioned himself and everything just to get.
Dude, he was horrible. Like, if you watch that game, you're like, this dude, second pick, what the heck were they watching at college tape of this guy?
Yeah. Well, but on the other hand, those Chris Striveler rookie
Streveler. He was a fourth stringer on the Cardinals last year, dude. You guys suck.
I think the highest he's ever been on a depth chart at the professional level was as a backup in the CFL.
I mean, the only reason he even did anything is because the Jaguars' game plan for a guy who can't run at all, and this guy came in running around like a crazy man, and they just weren't ready for it. I mean, that's the only reason he had any success.
Right. Well, I don't know. There's a question a little bit later. Let's just go to this question now. From Ben Cross Country Runner 1. Has there ever been a case, when prospecting actually paid off in the long run? Really, the only example I can think of is LeBron. Going off the eye test, I feel like Mahomes – we don't like the eye test, by the way. Mahomes, Brady, and Giannis were more people just happening to have them from buying packs, not intentionally going after those players. Monkeys throwing darts at a basket of stocks can often perform the SP 500. Editorial note, I don't think that's quite right. Do you think a similar approach, buying a random bunch of cheap players, would have a better return on investment than prospecting?
I mean, this kind of goes with that series of stories I posted where it's like, no matter what you do, they always go down in value, even if they turn out to be Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, It's like, that's kind of the same idea here. I think people probably prospected Mahomes and Giannis to a certain degree. It just may not be in the traditional sense you're thinking where, people are going bananas over the number one pick right away. But I don't know. It's definitely a very low hit rate. I'll say that. Very, very, very low. Because in cards, we're not talking about the hit rate for, when you make a draft pick in these sports and you're hoping they turn out to be like an all-star or a Pro Bowler, which would be good enough. And, you're not expecting them to be Brady. But in cards, they either have to be Brady, LeBron, or it's almost like a bust long-term, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it goes. I mean, there's obviously value in lots of players, but it's very, very exponential.
Right. Definitely. So this is one time when card ladder's indexes are extremely helpful because the indexes are all normalized so that on the date of the first sale of the first card of the player, it's at 1,000. And then whatever the number is today, you can understand it relative to 1,000. So if an index in card ladder is worth 5,000 today, that player's cards have increased fivefold since the first recorded sale of the first card of that player in card ladder's database. All right. So one name that was conspicuously absent, which makes for a pretty neat example, is Mike Trout. And Trout's card ladder index value, this is his all-time graph.
Oh, my
set
God.
to
scale. If we set it to linear scale, it looks the looks more dramatic. But if the value of his index is 170,715, so his index has increased 170-fold since the first sale of the first card in our database, and it got as high as almost 400,000. So a lot of volatility involved there, but Trout is one such example. Curry is another. Giannis is another, which Ben did mention. Trout is an outlier. And even if you look at somebody like John Moran, who you could reasonably have projected has a decent chance of becoming a great player as a top 2 overall pick, his card ladder index is currently at 2,037, which means his values have roughly doubled, even taking into account the collapse over 2022, which many players have experienced. Okay, so I think we can make the case that there are plenty of prospects who increase in value. But then the question is, relative to what? What if you had just bought Derek Jeter cards? Or what if you had just bought Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth or something like that? What about then? And that's where it gets interesting, because only a few prospects have outperformed their category index ever. And it usually only happens for like a year. So like during John Morant's breakout year, he outperformed the basketball card index, but since then, I think it's pretty level. So that's kind of a complicated answer, but basically there are prospects who do pan out. There's plenty more who don't, like Josh rightly pointed out. But even though a prospect pans out, you have to measure that performance relative to the alternatives. And in many cases, the prospect outside of that burst, where they sort of blow everybody's mind for a little while, outside of that burst, they seem to actually perform pretty closely to the category that they're in.
Yeah. Slight deviation from that, but similar, is Drake's PC messaged me and he said something like, we always talk about how you should focus on collecting and choose players you enjoy and collect those cards. But then there'll be times like this where we say, hey, if you're looking to make money, you got to buy, Mantle, Jordan, that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, which is it, right?
Right.
And it really just depends. Like, is your goal just to buy something and then not get clobbered on it? Then you probably shouldn't be buying prospects. You should be buying these, safer players. If your goal is to collect, then, do whatever you want. And if your goal is to have a mix, you can pick and choose what you like.
100%. And one of the, okay, so somebody might ask, why? Why is it that way? Shouldn't a prospect be doing more because, they're adding to their legacy actively? Okay, the countervailing effect here is that you're paying a premium to get to watch and enjoy this player's career unfold. And that drives up prices in the shorter term when the exciting things are happening, and it makes them collapse at a faster rate when they're sort of normalizing out, plateauing, settling into who they're ultimately going to be. So that goes back to the $100,000 question on best cards of the young prospects. That goes to prospecting in general. It's like you are going to pay a premium for the right to collect the cards of this player while they're active and getting to experience being a stakeholder. That competition is driving a price for those players in the short term, but it's not really sustaining in the long term.
Yeah, great point.
All right. Timmy D 21 PC says, if Instagram and Facebook went away, would you still be as passionate about collecting cards?
As passionate?
As passionate.
No, I don't think I could say as. I still would be, but not as, right? Like it would be lower.
Yep. I think like most people, when they heard this question or read this question, they said, of course I'm going to still be passionate about collecting cards. I collected cards, before social media, but that's not the question. The question is, would you be as passionate? And I agree with you. No,
I wouldn't. Social media definitely adds a dimension to collecting that makes it more engaging. Go ahead.
I'd be more passionate because I wouldn't have to see stupid people.
Knew that was coming. Knew that was coming. Christina goes the other way. All right. Flippity Flip Cards says, is there a number grade that for whatever reason just irks you? For me, it's a PSA 8. I'd almost prefer a 7 over an 8. He's just got an issue with the number 8.
That's a bummer. PSA 8.5 is bothersome. I'd rather have an 8. That's kind of the same answer as what you gave.
Fair. That's super fair. Half grades, except for 8.5. 8.5 I can kind of tolerate. All the other half grades, don't love them.
7.5?
Oh,
No thanks.
7.5 is my least favorite grade of any.
Because you're just like in complete no man's land.
I hate that grade. It just looks ugly on slabs, dude.
When do the people at PSA feel like, you know what? 95% of the time we give a round number, but this looks like a 7.5. Like what is distinguishable about that?
Good question. And this, like, look, I just want to dwell on this for just a second longer. The number 7.5 is just clunky. It's fat, takes up a wide chunk. It's an ugly number. If I'm just, there's something a little more to this, I think.
Yeah, it reminds me of when I used to get 75s on math tests, and like you'd get a C, and you'd be like, "What the fuck, man?"
Nobody wants to get a 75.
Just I didn't show my work doesn't mean I got the wrong answer.
Facts.
Baldy Sports Cards. Oh, okay. This one is the zinger. Why is customer service and accountability severely lacking in sports card companies?
In sports card companies or like the world?
Well, so Cal's Cards replied when I shared this to the story, and he said, dude, it isn't just sports card companies. It's every company in every industry.
Yeah, there's just like a lot of lazy people out there, and you never know who you're going to interact with in a company, and you can't really ever say just because I had a bad experience with this person that whole company's bad. If you have several in a row, like I'm thinking of my local cable company, every time I talk to them it's bad. That's probably like a bigger issue, but it's definitely not just sports cards. I mean, this person's probably thinking of something specific here, right? They probably had a bad interaction with someone recently.
Yeah. Well, anybody trying to track down a redemption has probably had this type of experience at some point.
Well, I will add, though, that maybe not this year as much, but like last year when all these companies were sprouting out of nowhere and going crazy, there was a lot of like non-card people that you'd interface with at these companies that had no idea what they were talking about. That's pretty frustrating because it was such a new, sort of industry.
Yeah, I also think there's a chance that people just don't know how to do customer service. And it's tough as a customer service person to have a stake in the outcome of the dispute for purposes beyond your review sheet from your supervisor. We're at a huge advantage, I think, as like clear stakeholders in the Card Ladder brand and as founders of that company. Like, we really, really care about the customer experience that people have, because like it's a direct reflection on us as people, as founders, so on and so forth. And so like it just naturally the incentives really line up. It's just tough to recreate that in a vacuum with people who may or may not care deeply about how a customer service interaction reflects in the company. I'm not saying that's the case in all situations, but it's tough. It's tough to replicate that vibe.
So how does Chick-fil-A do it?
By taking off one day a week.
No.
1 day of rest.
You think so? Is that the trick?
Oh, no. I don't know. Do you have good Chick-fil-A interactions?
Every time, dude. Every single person I interact with at Chick-fil-A is positive. It's crazy.
Nice.
That's kind of like a known thing, isn't it? That's not just me.
No, I guess so. I don't know. I've been to Chick-fil-A
The Stars just scored.
very few times. We can hear the horn blow when they score.
Oh, nice.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's just more of an event. So I'm not going to take that question and like break it down too much, but it's something that it would be great if companies were conscientious of. If people are having shitty experiences.
If people cared in me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
All right. Sweat47 says, what's the best way to approach someone you don't know about a card that they have that you would like to purchase, but it has not been advertised for sale? Is it weird that I feel weird about doing this?
No, it's not weird. It's not weird that you feel weird. I don't know. Maybe like kiss their butt, build them up, talk about how awesome their cards are, get to know them a little bit.
Ease your way into it, you're saying.
Take them out to dinner first, right? Don't just go straight to the question.
Yeah, that's great. Stiff Arm Wax has a funny point of view on stuff like this because throughout his life, he's had many people want to collaborate with him on making film and media projects.
He's like,
and so,
get to it.
Yeah.
Get to it, motherfucker.
Exactly. Like, he's like, if you ever send him a message like, yo, what's up, man? He's just like, what does this asshole want? Like, can you just say, he's always getting baited into it. He's always getting baited into it. And so that's been something going back years and years and years. And so I've really learned from his wisdom on that to just like, if somebody's got something that I want, it's going to be in the first DM. It's just going to be, as soon as I fire up the message, I'm just going to get right to business. But I understand that some people aren't going to like that. They're going to be like, geez, like this guy just wants my card, doesn't even want to take me to a movie.
Take me to dinner first, sir.
So which do you prefer, or which would you respond better to?
You have for me personally, if somebody's trying to ask me about a card, just get right to it.
Yeah, me too.
Right to it. But I understand, it's not. There's something human about wanting more of an interaction.
Can I tell you why?
Yeah.
Because the longer you draw it out, and the more that you go on and on about how much you like my cards or whatever, then when you ask, it's just gonna make me more angry. Like, you fucking wasted all this time, and all you wanted was this one thing. Why didn't you just ask for that first?
Right. Yeah. No, I know. I think that's right. And yeah, so don't waste time. Okay. LSU Tiger Collector 65 says, what would you go back and tell your hobby self at the time when you re-entered the hobby full time? Let me read that again. What would you go back and tell your hobby self at the time that you re-entered the hobby full time? Let me modify this question a little bit. How about just like, what would you go back, knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell yourself when you first started in the hobby again?
Am I going first? She got something to
say? Christina's lip smack can be heard across the stream. What is it, Christina?
I mean, I would have a list of people I should never talk to or interact with.
Is there a theme with her tonight?
She's got a theme tonight. We're coming up with the caption of this show. Just a stop sign. It's just a stop sign.
Okay. All right. Well, Christina's advice to herself would be telling herself to avoid certain people.
I have a very specific one. Super specific. And I always think of this when this question comes up.
All right.
It was like I think it was 2017. Card Ladder probably has this sale. Look it up for me. Just search LeBron 2003 Logo Man. Do you remember this? I think it was 2017. It sold on like Heritage, I believe, for $312,000. Did I get it right?
That's exactly right.
$312,000. I was looking at that. I didn't have a card worth more than $10,000 at the time, but I remember looking at that auction and being like, "Man, what do I gotta do? Do I have to like pull some money out of my house equity. Like, what do I got to do? I just felt very drawn to it, and I just had this feeling about it, and I just was too scared to pull the trigger and actually make it a reality. I would go back and be like, just do it.
Yeah, that rings true. Go back and tell our scared hobby selves to just don't worry so much about it. It's gonna work out okay.
The PMG Green.
Yeah.
That one that sold for, how much did Nat buy that one for? Wasn't that like 300 grand?
It was something like that. Yeah, that was in early 2019.
Mm-hmm.
It sold for $350,000 in February of 2019. I remember showing my classmates at law school that sale and them thinking I was the notion that I was a gigantic nerd confirmed when I showed them that.
Oh, sweetie, they were confirmed.
That's good. All right. I don't know. What would I go back and tell my hobby? So these type of questions just don't really resonate with me. They just don't. You know, my trajectory would be completely different if I was able to go back and impart some great wisdom. Then I wouldn't be where I am today. It's just
When I was in Dallas, Chris spent so much time, you guys, just sitting there sulking about all these things he wish he had done. He's just like, oh, you guys, why didn't we do this thing?
And then I come on here, this is my copium. It's just acting like all right. Cage Lawyer says, what? What is that?
I can only imagine what he's going to say.
I've never seen Christina recoil at a question strictly off of the name of the person who's asking it. And look, I think Cage should be mildly complimented by that and offended, but
He should be complimented.
because it takes quite a bit to strike fear in the heart of Christina.
It's not fear. Don't let him get it over.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Cage knows I'm not afraid of him.
Okay, well, let's correct the record on that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Cage says, what do you think of the apparent increase in litigation or the threat of it that is so you have nothing to worry about, Christina. That is happening in the hobby. And mostly 90s basketball cards has a specific instance of alt suing BGS.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the other one.
Faces.
What's that, Josh?
I thought we were talking about the other one.
There's several.
Yeah.
There are multiple instances of litigation or the threat of litigation. One's a threat, the other's a complaint that's been filed.
Yeah, one of them is like when I hit my brother and he runs and tells my mom that, or he threatens me that he's going to run and tell my mom if I do that again, kind of thing.
Right.
The alt one, I don't know. I don't really have much to say about that. It seems like they're going to lose.
Yeah, and look, the court is, in my opinion, is going to be very hesitant to wade into the sports card industry and look at the customs, and it'll be pretty easy to show evidence, I think, that the customs of the industry involve knowledge that grades issued by Beckett are not guaranteed, and that there's a certain level of buyer beware, or buyer assumes the risk, even with a graded card. In other words, that Beckett issues opinions, not guarantees, and the court isn't going to come in, I don't think, and change that custom. Even if morality or justice or even adjacent case law in other industries suggests that courts will say, hey, look, we're going to make an authenticator stand by their opinion. So I think that's a tough hill to climb. And it's unfortunate because, look, we all know about the problem of the dentists. We haven't talked about the problem of the lawyers. But lawyers are going to make a bunch of money off of this. And there's, it's already in pre-trial. And the nobody else is going to make money off of this. This most likely this is just going to be.
You also think like
This is ultimately going to settle.
it's such a niche group of sports card collectors, that lawyers are going to be charging up the ass just to do research on the industry. Like that's not even like all the
Yep, billable hours.
billable hours are going to be crazy.
Yep.
Just to tell you, they don't even back their own shit when it's in the case, and you took it out of the case. There's no fucking lawsuit here.
Well, the court will decide that.
Yeah.
But thank you for your
Well,
opinion.
the court will say, feel free to waste your money because this is America.
No, the court is going to encourage them to settle at every juncture, in every conference. But okay, Josh, what do you think about this? The apparent increase in litigation or the threat for it in the hobby? All take whatever direction you want.
Well, the only thing about that Curry is that Christina said it, but one of the unwritten rules about the hobby is once you crack the card out, you're taking on the risk yourself. Like once you crack it and you send it in, you don't get what you want. You're supposed to just basically like take it and be like, well, that's the risk I took when I cracked it. Shouldn't have done that. This kind of feels more like, damn, I'm really pissed about that. I'd like to get my money back. I wish I wouldn't have done that. It was a quad 9-5. They could have left it in. PSA might have crossed it, which they've done a bunch when the quads. Increase in litigation. People are losing money, Chris. Like people are losing money left and right. Companies are losing money.
They want to lose
Market
more.
values are going down a ton. People want to. Well, people think they can recoup it. That they think they're going to win in court and recoup some of this money. I don't know.
That's totally fair point. The funny thing is that like the opposite is sort of true as well. Like the stakes have gotten so high that litigation is going to happen. People are going to take on the legal fees. Although I'm not sure everybody who's threatening litigation is actually incurring legal fees. Some might be a little pro bono going on here or there. Relations. I don't know. Litigation.
Speaking of hidden brothers.
Litigation is an ugly thing. I would compare, if one happens to be embroiled in litigation and doesn't really understand how it works, and how could anybody really understand how it works unless they've been through it or they're lawyers themselves, it can be one of the worst experiences of your life. And it can be very stressful. It can be, just pressure and nasty and ugly. And I think there may have been a recent example in the hobby of just how ugly legal documents can be and how ridiculous they can make people look. In part because of like the way that posturing in the law works is that there's a lot of lawyers have this how to state your case strongly, try to scare everybody. Don't try to thread needles, just go scorched earth all the time. I don't like that school of thought, but I know that there are people who try to do it that way. So litigation is ugly, it's nasty, and especially when it surrounds issues of speech. Man, those are tough cases to win. And ultimately, I think as human beings, there's a lot of people in the hobby, myself included for sure, on a much smaller scale, who are not accustomed in any way, shape, or form to being something mildly resembling a public figure. And I'm not saying that I am or that we are. There are some people in the hobby who probably are at a true public figure stature. And that comes with a lot of criticism and people saying nasty things about you, people lying about you, people telling the truth about you, people digging into your past and your facts and stuff. And it's part and parcel of that world. And, you got to deal with it. You have to be mentally strong enough, or I don't know, that feels like a cliche, but you know what I'm getting at here.
Yeah.
So, all right. Drake's PC says, what words or phrases would you use to describe people who list rare and scarce cards for way above market value on selling platforms? and who refuse to do any sort of rational negotiating. So Drake
I'd
wants
call
to
that,
Jordan for these people.
call that person common, because that's like what most people do.
Common. Call that person an eBay user.
Yeah. Just the average card seller.
I don't know, Drake. Look, man, in the spirit of airing grievances, it is very frustrating, sir. All right, 515 Sports Card says, "What is your favorite year of Topps Chrome and why?" I personally love 2007.
Favorite year of Topps Chrome. Let's see. I'll say 2008.
Oh man, okay, and why?
The photography and like the design of like the bubbles with the team names. I just like it.
Cool. All right, I don't know that much about the distinctions between the years of Topps Chrome, to be honest, but I was going to say 2008 as well, and one of the reasons why is because of those Reds out of 5.
That's good. Good reason.
Which I think are really cool. And I'm pretty sure it's the only year that basketball had them.
For Topps Chrome, yeah, they have some Bowmans.
Yeah. So that's
Didn't the Kobe recently sell? Like
Did.
last week?
this. So we know the gold has the gold has taken a plunge. The red, however, recorded its first sale, I believe, 120 grand.
Look at that thing.
Yeah,
Damn.
that's a sick card for sure.
Yeah, it's got LeBron on it. Yeah, that's a good card.
Cool would it be to be one of these people?
I'd rather be one of the two guys in the front, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Suppose that's not up for debate. Ken Griffey Jr., 24 collector, as we've got about 13 minutes left in tonight's show, says, "How and why has PSA become the king of grading and the king of card values?"
Consistency, time. Those are the two.
Christina, you're making guttural noises.
Well, I was gonna say, no, I got nothing.
She's got nothing. How much credence do you give to the belief that PSA is simply calling its gem mint a 10 rather than a 9.5?
A lot. I mean, I think far and away the number one reason is time and consistency, but I think that makes a big difference. I know it does with me. I don't want 9.5s. Like, I just don't. I'd rather have a 10. It's just the way it is. Like, my little stupid lizard brain would just rather see a 10 than a 9.5.
Right. Yes. I think that's a factor. I've heard a lot of people refer to it as well. So, like, people think about and care about these things. Oh, Christina's taken to the chat excitedly. Someone's getting a message, and oh, here we go. All right.
Wish I wouldn't have read that.
PSA also, in the last year or two, very seriously undertook the goal of scaling. And they closed their doors for an extended period of time when that backlog got ridiculous. Like millions of cards were reaching their doorstep in a week's time span. And they took the issue of scaling very seriously, and now per gem rates, they're grading 1 million cards a month, and they're on a 12 million card per year pace, and they've been at that pace for a long time. So I think there's something to that as well, taking scaling very seriously and executing and implementing on it, especially under the tenure of the new leadership. So, all right. JGP Collectibles. He's wanted to get this question in for a few weeks now. I'm sorry. That's not. He's been posting this for a while, I should say, and it's been on my mind, and now we finally get to address it. Quote, "People are buying comps, not cards," end quote. Do you believe that to be the case for people currently transacting in the space?
Can you explain?
I think when he says people are buying comps, not cards, what he's saying is people are too beholden to the comp.
Mm-hmm.
And they're relying too much on the last sale, and they're just treating cards as if there's nothing more or less to it than the most recent sale, and there's no room for any nuance there.
Yeah.
It's just, this is what it last sold for, this is what I'll pay for it, and they're not collecting cards, they're buying commodities.
Well, can I speak to this from personal experience? I've been trying to actively buy LeBron cards right now, specifically like Exquisite and Gold, kind of my go-to, and I'm sticking to the comps because one, I feel like sellers are more desperate to sell than buyers are to buy right now, so I have the upper hand. And two, like, as I've seen, lots of this stuff just keeps coming out. So why am I in a rush to like overpay for yours when I believe that another copy is going to come out next month, especially when it's numbered to like 23, 50, 100. Like, I have the upper hand with the amount of volume coming out. If you don't want to sell, that's fine. I'll just wait for the next one. So like, but I get the spirit of the question. So maybe you can answer the other side of it.
No, I think that's exactly right. I get the grievance with it. An overemphasis on comps just doesn't feel like we're collecting cards anymore. I totally agree with that question, but like, I'm on the other side of it slightly as well, to the extent that like, dude, comps matter. The theory behind comps mattering is that when an auction ends, it goes for the marginal one incremental unit higher than the second highest bidder would have paid. That's why a comp makes sense to me, is because that guy lost. That guy was willing to pay that much. So therefore, if you have a copy of that card that you want to sell, theoretically there's somebody willing to pay what the last auction sold for, because that price was set by the underbidder who didn't win. So there's like a rationality behind why comps are what they are, why they're market determining piece of information. But I sympathize with the spirit.
We don't have infinite money, right? Like, it's great to say, yeah, I'll pay whatever for a card, and for a one-on-one, it's true. Like, what's your price? If I need this card, I'll buy it. It makes sense. But if not, like, I don't have infinite money, so if I can save $1,000, $100, like, I'm gonna do it.
Right on. Jose in the chat says he ran this poll on Instagram, and 80% of the 20 respondents agreed with sentiment of people buying comps over cards. Yeah, people are not loving the excessive focus on comps. All right.
Probably the sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Monte CP3 says, what would you do if a Grail card, something numbered to 5 or less, it shows up and it's noticeably damaged, such as creased? Do you pass on that card, even though you might never see a copy of it again?
That's a good question. I personally would. I'm not a fan of damaged cards. Like, it would bother me too much, even if it's like super. I mean, if it's like a 1-of-1, like if that McCaffrey, I think you'd make an exception for that. If that was damaged, you'd get it. But if it's like out of 5 or a gold prism, you might pass, right? Because is it that fine? Is it that fine of a line?
Well, it's just tough,
Crease is tough.
There are certain cards that just like the concept of them matters so much that it's almost like even if it was ripped in half,
Yeah.
The idea of that card is so meaningful to your collection. And then there's also the thing of hey, get a lower grade for now, and then if a higher grade one becomes available, upgrade to it.
Yes, that. Because if a 2020 Prism, Fast Break, Neon Green, out of 5, Maxi Kleba shows up and it's ripped in half and you have the 2 halves, I'm buying that. No matter what.
There you go.
can burn one corner and I'm still buying it.
And in fact, there was a ripped in half card that sold for $500,000 not that long ago. It was
Yeah. The Wagner.
Yeah, the Wagner.
Yeah, and it didn't even have both halves. It was just one half.
Let me see if I can find a picture of this in Card Letter sales history. Excuse me. Here it is. Here it is. It sold for $476,000. Boom.
It didn't even have the other piece.
No, yeah.
Think about the guy with the other piece, though. He really got screwed. He's just got like a body, and that's it, no head.
Got a chin and a uniform.
Look how far PSA has come. The second card they ever graded wasn't even a card. It was half a card.
And the first one they graded was trimmed. Trimmed, rip it in half, and then it's only up from there.
Look, if PSA can become the behemoth that it is, starting from there, I'm going to walk on the moon one day. All right. Cards and cardio. There has been some speculation that this was a raging debate on Twitter today. There's been some speculation that iconic low-grade vintage is the next bubble that will pop in the hobby. I feel that with more collectors emerging in the space than the last couple of years, it will either remain steady or gradually increase as more investors begin collecting with a longer-term time horizon in mind. What are your thoughts regarding the low-grade iconic vintage card market?
I was talking to somebody about this, and they were talking about like a specific Babe Ruth card that had like a reasonably high population. It was like 150, and someone owned a copy, and they're like, "Oh, are you gonna sell it? Like, are you worried about the market going down on cards with high pop?" And that person was basically like, in the vintage world, like people just aren't selling as often as the modern stuff. And like he's like, my specific card that you're talking about, there's only been 5 sales in the last, I believe it was like a year, and they were like, but the LeBron 99, the champ ticket, Brady, those have sold. I think we pointed out 20 times in the last year, and there's less copies of that than this one example of this Babe Ruth card. And it's, that's kind of like an anecdotal example. It's not really like hard facts here, but it kind of does seem like maybe some of the vintage guys they've held for a lot longer, they've been in it longer, they're more willing to continue to hold than some of the modern stuff. So that might be one of the reasons that's been going on. Now, if you get into a place where new flood of people start coming in and picking up those cards, and then they have no attachment to them, and they start dumping them, which is a lot of what happened over the last 2 years, then yeah, we'll see that flip, right?
Absolutely. So marketplaces that have focused heavily on ultra-modern and modern cards and were there facilitating the flood of supply and greasing the wheel for buyers to feel confident in buying at these high prices. The stuff that they've been selling over the last 6 to 8 months has seen precipitous drops, and it just doesn't look good, period. It doesn't show any sign of market strength whatsoever. It shows fear, it shows panic, it shows weakness, it just shows a poor market. But if you go to Card Ladder sales history, set the results to be just after December 1st of this year, and then plug in Memory Lane, Robert Edward Auctions, SCP, Mile High. Plug in some of these auction houses that specialize and almost exclusively only sell vintage and pre-war vintage, and just scroll the lists of their most recent auction, just stuff that they've sold since December 1st. You're going to see all-time high after all-time high after all-time high after all-time high of the cards that they're selling. And I know this to be true because I've been taking a larger interest in that category, especially because Card Ladder's verified card profiles for vintage and pre-war vintage, as that market becomes increasingly more heated, it's better that we have more and more coverage of it, especially if there are trends that might be predicting a bubble. So we want to take a look at that and make sure the information is in front of people and let people know that there are incredible prices being realized in those categories right now and that they are having their moment. I had somebody message me and said, are we ever going to, basically, what's up with all this vintage in the Card Ladder emails every day?
Just like, dude, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that's setting the records right now.
Also, those auction houses run much less frequently than Golden and PWCC, which run the modern stuff. So that's a big part of it, dude. They're running. Some of those run like 3-4 a year, every other month, every 3 months, every 4 months, right?
It's a terrific point. And so one last thing that I'll do here is, as I was thinking about this question, I just said, well, what happens if I go to the Card Ladder Vintage Index? And let's not, mince words here. The Vintage Index has done extremely well, and it hasn't corrected nearly as much as some of the other categories, but it's still corrected here. You can see this steep decline over the last month or so. If we set the window, the time horizon at 3 months, the vintage category, which has almost 4,000 cards in it, is down 11%. If I just go over here to cards and I sort by their ladder score, which is going to sort them based on their performance over the last 2 weeks, and I look at some of the more poor performing cards, you can find some stuff that's correcting a little bit. So, like, let's just set this to a year so we can expand a little bit. So, like, this, and granted, anytime we're talking vintage, especially eye appeal is a factor. There's going to be natural variance within grades because of eye appeal. That should be considered. But, over last year, this card, from the sale from February until today, is down almost 40%. If we go to this 48 Leaf Jackie PSA 4, this card over the last year is down 35%. And again, remember, especially with vintage, you get variance with eye appeal and stuff like that, but you can still maybe determine something of a trend line. If, you kind of just, this 53 Topps Mantle SGC2, there are cards, that one's down about 48%. There are cards in the vintage category for sure that are not just going up. And the category as a whole, the index as a whole is down 5% on the year, 11% the last 3 months. So, all right, we've run out of time. Quick rapid fire show tonight. Do you have any ideas for title?
Stop sign.
Stop sign. All right.
What did you think of the 1 hour?
It went by really
Didn't love it. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, me neither. Like 2 hours.
Yeah.
We tried 3 and it was just too much. We were like exhausted. 1's too short. 2 is the sweet spot.
2 is the sweet spot. And we need that comfort level to, whereas if we need to talk about the merits of thin crust pizza and Elliott's versus Cutie Pies in terms of Dallas pizza, we have to be able to divulge into that.
I heard Nick wasn't impressed with Elliott, so
He's lying. He was very impressed. He was so impressed that he only ate like a slice.
wow.
Look, that's just great. That just puts me in that category of like that guy who discovers that alternative band that nobody really gets yet. I'm just ahead of the curve on this.
What?
When Elliott's is going international, I'll be able to point back.
You found the Beatles early. You were prospecting in pizzas.
I found the Zach Wilson of pieces.
Hopefully not, because that's, that pizza's going straight to the trash then.
All right. Happy holidays to everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
A lot has changed since Card Ladder began. We started with 500 cards in our database, and now we have over 3 million cards and over 30 million sales.
For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
With Card Ladder's sales history feature, we have virtually every card in our system. If the card you are looking for ever sold on one of these platforms, you can find it using Card Ladder's sales history, and you can add a card to your collection with just one click.
My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Plus, every card, no matter the last time it sold, has an estimated value that we calculated using our state-of-the-art player indexes. Unlike other apps, when you see Card Ladder's verified checkmark, that means a researcher personally vetted each and every sale.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
We know what you want, because Card Ladder was created by collectors for collectors.
Know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Join the innovators, not the imitators. Card Ladder 2.0, constantly constantly innovating. Try it for free. See why Card Ladder is the industry leader in sports card data.
We know what it takes to be reaching the top.
Card Ladder 2.0.